Okay, good evening and welcome to this extraordinary meeting of full council. I have a couple of practical issues to highlight. We have no fire drill planned tonight, so if there is a fire alarm, please make your way out of the building in a calm and orderly fashion, as guided by staff, and going down the main staircase and out through the main exit onto St. Peter Street or on Bethel Street. People with mobility issues should gather in the foyer on the left-hand side as you leave the chamber, near the balustrade, where assistance will be provided. Toilets are at the far end of the corridors, either side of the chamber, ladies to the left as you leave and gents to the right. May I ask that if you leave and return to the council chamber during the meeting, you ensure that the doors do not slam after you and that you refrain from talking when another person is speaking. Please note the meeting is being live streamed on the council's YouTube channel and will be capable of repeated viewing. I'm using my discretion as chair of the meeting to suspend the following procedure rules for the duration of the meeting. These are rules 95 and 96. This will enable members to speak more than once on any item and with no limits to the length of those speeches. Could I ask members to ensure that they are not repeating points already raised? Apologies for absence of received from councillors Calvert, Packer, Price, Worley and Giles. The Lord Mayor has sent apologies for personal reasons. He has asked me to read the following short statement on his behalf. As many members know, last Thursday I was assaulted in the street in an incident that was caught by City Council CCTV. As this is now a police matter, I cannot go into details. However, can I thank council officers and members for their support? Above all, I want to thank those ordinary members of the public who put themselves in harm's way to save me from serious harm. It is them that make me proud to be Lord Mayor of Norwich. I'd also like to add that I'm sure I speak on behalf of everyone here in the chamber that we send our best wishes to the Lord Mayor, wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully he'll be back in his rightful place soon. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Okay. It should be noted that the monitoring officer has granted a dispensation to all councillors to take part in the debate and vote for the item. So we now move on to the main item today. It's the proposal for local government reorganisation in Norfolk, and I call upon Councillor Stannard to move item 3.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Council, this is an historic meeting of Norwich City Council. This might possibly be the most important meeting of the council most of us will ever attend. This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment. Tonight we will vote on a proposal to create a Greater Norwich Unitary Council on extended boundaries. This would give back to Norwich the powers and functions that were taken away in 1974 when the City of Norwich lost its county borough status. The proposed Greater Norwich Council would be a brand new council which would coexist alongside 2 other unitary councils. And this proposal for a 3 unitary solution has been jointly produced by 6 of the existing 7 district councils in the county. This cross-party collaboration has brought together 2 Liberal Democrat, 2 Conservative, 1 Independent and 1 Labour-controlled council in a common cause for a solution that is best for the residents of all 3 proposed geographies. It has cross-party support from local members of Parliament, 1 Liberal Democrat, 3 Labour, 1 Conservative and 1 Independent. This level of cross-party collaboration and agreement is very rare, very persuasive and very powerful. The proposed Greater Norwich Unitary Council would allow urban Norwich to take control of its own destiny. Vital decisions affecting daily life and the health, well-being and life chances of its residents would be made by people who actually live and work in the city, within its boundary, not by county councillors who represent rural divisions or small market towns, often many miles away. People who often have little understanding of the needs and challenges of a predominantly urban area and who have no stake in Norwich. This long-standing democratic deficit, which has constrained the ambitions of the city, would be addressed. The residents of Greater Norwich would be in control of their council and in control of all the powers exercised by the county council and the 3 district councils which currently cover the urban area. And a very similar argument can be made for the other two proposed unitary councils. The East Norfolk and West Norfolk unitaries would have their own distinct needs, challenges, demographics, and local economies. They would be distinct from one another and from urban Norwich. They too deserve to be served only by councillors who live and work within their boundaries and to have the full range of powers of a unitary council. But first, a technical point about the proposal. The government invited councils to submit proposals for local government reorganisation based on existing district boundaries. Without including this, our proposal could have been deemed non-compliant and would not be considered. So, to comply, our proposal includes an option for a Norwich unitary on its current boundaries, with the East and West unitaries built up from existing district boundaries. But as we know, there are fundamental shortcomings in such a proposal. Leaving Norwich underbounded ignores our real-world economic and geographic reach. It ignores a sense of place for people who live on the current fringes of Norwich with the democratic deficit that creates. And it stifles our opportunity to drive sustainable growth with all the benefits that brings. Put simply, unitaries based on existing boundaries would waste an opportunity to design fit-for-purpose authorities that can deliver better for our communities. However, the government's invitation also allows councils to submit a modified submission, and so our proposal formally requests that government considers proposals for 3 unitaries based on modified boundaries. Council. Greater Norwich stands out as unique in Norfolk. It is the economic, cultural, and academic powerhouse of the county, with an economy of almost £10 billion, supporting 158,000 jobs and over 10,500 businesses. It is the economically dominant urban area within the new Norfolk and Suffolk Combined Authority. It is home to 40% of Norfolk's jobs and 60% of Norfolk's knowledge-intensive employment. It has nationally significant specialisms in health, finance, and insurance. It is home to 2 world-class universities and a research park which conducts world-leading biotech research. And it is also a major cultural centre and one of the country's regional media hubs. Since 2010, Norwich's economy has grown by 64%, outperforming other much larger cities. But the city economy far exceeds its current boundary. This means that key decisions affecting the Greater Norwich economy are currently made by 3 different district councils and, of course, the county council. This makes no sense. Norwich needs a single unitary council to plan, coordinate, and manage its economy if it is to truly maximise its potential. But council, as we all know, there are other factors which set Greater Norwich apart from the rest of Norfolk, which are less palatable to hear. Currently, health inequalities in Norwich are the worst in the county. Life expectancy for men living in Norwich has fallen by over 18 months in the last 10 years. The gap in female life expectancy between the 10% most and least deprived areas of Norwich has increased by 6 years. That's 6 years since 2010. Against most factors of well-being and quality of life, Norwich performs below the England and Norfolk averages. At the same time, poor health outcomes are not just affecting the quality of life of residents, they also undermine Norwich's economic competitiveness. Across the Norwich urban area, 8,500 residents are economically inactive due to long-term sickness or disability. And social mobility is restricted, with educational attainment being the lowest in Norfolk. Council, we know that health status and health inequalities are mostly shaped by people's economic and social status and the conditions in which they are born, live, work, and age. Local government has always played a key role in the provision of services and functions which are key to determining health status and health inequality. A Greater Norwich Unitary Council, which focused on tackling these determinants of poor health and inequalities, in a joined up and coordinated way could have a real impact. Some might ask why local government reorganisation is important. Isn't this just an exercise in redrawing lines on a map and tinkering with the governance? Will it really make any difference to the everyday lives of residents? In answering that question, I want to be very clear that these proposals are driven by both an ambition and a passion to achieve changes that will improve those daily lives and tackle the challenges and inequalities I have outlined. First is the ambition for Norwich to have an audaciously ambitious council that strives to be the very best it can be, community-based, enhancing local democracy and delivering the highest quality services for its residents. And second is the passion to drive real, tangible improvements in the everyday lives of the residents, tackling inequalities, increasing social mobility, improving education attainment, investing in skills and training, attracting inward investment, creating new jobs, building quality, accessible homes of all tenures, improving health and well-being, and having effective prevention and early intervention services in place to ensure those who are vulnerable and in need receive the support they need and do not reach crisis point. All these benefits can be delivered by a unitary council with the ambition, the will, and the control over social care, children's services, special education, general education and skills, housing, public health, environmental health, planning, transport, inward investment, and more, working in partnership with other public bodies such as the ICB. By bringing together these functions and services and managing them and providing them in a coordinated way, such a council will be able to deliver positive change and can achieve real improvements in the health, well-being and socio-economic status of its residents. The proposals before us have been informed by in-depth public consultation. There were over 5,000 public responses to surveys, with 56% providing additional comments, demonstrating breadth and depth of engagement. We engaged with over 2,000 partners and had individual meetings with over 1,500. There were over 60,000 page views on our website, and our social media saw 438,000 views. Participation came from throughout the county and from a wide range of ages. Overall, the responses told us that people value accountability and access to decision makers. They value services that reflect local needs and identities, and a structure that can manage resources well, plan ahead, and adapt without creating unnecessary complexity. Reflecting this feedback, at the heart of these proposals are three guiding principles: people, place, and progress. People means services based on people's needs, with decisions made closer to communities, giving a stronger voice for residents and businesses. Place means services shaped by the distinct identities and priorities of our rural, coastal, market town, and city communities. And progress means a model that is financially sustainable, adaptable, and accountable, which looks to the future and involves wider public service reform. Taking up that theme of wider public service reform, our vision is to break down siloed ways of working, shaping the organisation around the needs of the residents rather than expecting them to navigate around tiers of government. How would we do this? Well, let me briefly bring that to life. Council-provided multi-agency hubs would provide local integrated service points in neighbourhoods and schools, where trusted local staff would offer in-person support, such as on parenting, benefits advice, and wellbeing initiatives. This would sit alongside a single front door, serving as a unified access point by phone, online, or email for self-referral, referral by partners, or because of proactive outreach. This would handle routine requests and provide low complexity assistance, but would also be able to connect residents with the right support, ensuring they get it quickly without having to navigate complex systems. Outreach teams would bring early intervention directly to those with limited access, especially in rural and hard-to-reach areas. They would provide home visits, school-based programs, and proactive outreach to identify hidden needs and address them before they escalate. On top of this, multidisciplinary teams of specialists would provide targeted expertise, from safeguarding and mental health to housing and school engagement, within collaborative case management. They would work alongside universal and community-based staff to ensure timely, appropriate interventions for complex or escalating needs. This is just one part of our vision to reform the public services provided by the proposed unitaries, to provide comprehensive, easily accessible, wraparound support informed by emerging best practice nationally. This is not a rehashing of what already exists. It is a vision for fundamental progressive change that we can be truly proud of. But none of this is achievable or sustainable if the three proposed unitaries are not financially viable. Our consultants drew on the 2025-26 revenue account returns of the current councils to model the funding and expenditure profile of a Greater Norwich unitary. The consultants then projected the annual outturn for the next 8 years, up to the financial year 2035-36. This demonstrated that, based on the 25-26 figures, with no other changes, the indicative baseline for a Greater Norwich Unitary Council would be a deficit of £6.38 million. This raw figure excludes the impact of lower fixed costs, service transformation, and council tax harmonisation, and I stress is only indicative. When the model is then run over the following 8 financial years, we found that, by year 4, sufficient surpluses have been generated to repay the costs of creating the authority, and by year 8, Greater Norwich would be achieving a recurrent surplus of around £15 million per annum and would have delivered a cumulative surplus of £67 million. On this basis, our consultants confidently reported, and I quote, "Greater Norwich can stand as a viable unitary authority. Greater Norwich has the potential not just to manage its starting position, but to build a financially stable platform for innovative and preventative local government." You will see from the pack that this work was done for all 3 proposed new authorities and demonstrated that all 3 are financially viable and sustainable. Council, these proposals set out how Greater Norwich will be able to take control of its destiny, tackle the long-standing democratic deficit, and have a council with a laser-sharp focus on addressing long-standing challenges and seizing new opportunities. It could enhance local democracy, build services around individuals and communities, and create greater opportunities and social mobility for residents. It could grow the economy, create new jobs for local people, and build much-needed housing. In short, it could positively transform local government and positively transform the lives of citizens in ways unimaginable under current arrangements. This is a once-in-50 years opportunity, Council, and I urge you to seize it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stannard. I call upon Councillor Hampton to second the item.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor. It's a real pleasure to be seconding this proposal tonight. I think Mike summed up the contents and the history and context behind it quite well, and has, as ever, articulated our case really strongly, as he has done throughout this process. So I'll be relatively brief. This final proposal before us today is the culmination of a lot of detailed hard work, especially by leaders and officers across the 6 district, city and borough councils who collaborated on a cross-party basis to get us all to this point. It represents an ambitious but also evidence-based and realistic 3 unitary model for local government reorganisation in Norfolk, which would finally include a unitary Greater Norwich on extended urban boundaries. It's fairly immediately intuitive, I think, that a large single unitary for the entirety of Norfolk with a single set of services just isn't going to be able to truly meet the needs of a diverse set of coastal, rural and urban communities like our county is comprised of. But this is a proposal that takes this into account and puts forward a compelling, strong case for how 3 unitaries best unlocks the potential of Norfolk and the hubs within it, recognising and building on Norwich as the economic, cultural and academic hub of the county, and also the clean energy economy of East Norfolk and agri-food manufacturing base of the West. And given that varied political landscape in Norfolk, the level of consensus that has been reached, with 6 out of 7 districts in the county on board with this proposal, who have leaders from 4 different political parties or groupings and who are from areas across the proposed 3 new unitary areas. As Mike has highlighted, the significance of that really can't be underestimated. It's a real achievement and a strong indication that this proposal works across the county, not just for Norwich or any area on its own, and it's one that rises truly above party politics. The setup and implementation of any future unitary will rightly be overseen by those who, in due course, are elected on a shadow basis to serve on it. But this is a proposal that sets out a vision and starts to demonstrate the art of the possible. It's underpinned by rigorous financial analysis, which shows 3 unitaries would be viable from day one and would be able to deliver a range of savings and secure financial resilience into the long term. It makes a compelling case for how this arrangement would unlock inclusive, sustainable growth, while, all importantly, also tackling inequalities and preserving local identity. I think it's also important to reiterate again the successful public engagement that took place in Norwich and across partner authorities. Local government reorganisation is a complex issue, and I think, to be honest, it is one it can be tricky to engage residents on and make that connection to people's everyday lives. But thanks to some clear and powerful communications and measures taken to take that conversation straight into our communities, with 13 in-person roadshows in Norwich alone and a raft of other meetings with other groups and stakeholders, I think this really helped to break through and provide us with meaningful feedback at all stages from members of the public. So as Mike says, this is a really historic moment for this council, certainly, but moreover the city as a whole. Submitting this proposal will pave the way for the people of Norwich to finally to be able to make decisions and have a say on their own city, communities and services from top to bottom. So I'm really pleased and proud to be seconding this today, and I hope we can get support across the chamber like we are across our partner local authorities. Thank you, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hampton. I'm now going to invite various group spokespersons, beginning with Councillor Champion on behalf of the Green Group.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. And on behalf of the Green Group, I would like to wish the Lord Mayor a swift recovery. Local government should not be remote. Accountability, local service delivery and responsiveness are all key to delivering excellent services to our residents. Whole country unitaries risk being remote, distant, and with little chance of being held to account. We do not want to see a mega council. So the Green Group backs the 3-way plan. If we are to have unitary authorities, then we think the 3-way split works best for local resident representation. The population numbers are balanced, as is the rural-urban mix. However, there are issues with how local government reorganisation has been done. Yes, it is necessary, but what is even more necessary is sorting out the funding. Local government is going to simply go bust at current trajectories. It is also a shame that the plan seems to have been handed down and to have been done to us. There may be some form of consultation, but there has been precious little chance to influence. The costs of consultancy have been high, and much has been decided behind closed doors. That said, we now have some notable opportunities with a new boundary. For instance, the opportunity to work with the Broads National Park, which will come much more under our remit and footprint, to develop a sustainable and nature-based tourism and to have more of an impact on river catchment. A lot of these areas will rest with the mayor, admittedly, but we can have a seat at the mayor's table so we can influence this crucial area. We must never forget that without a Norwich-centred authority, we will not have a seat at the mayor's table. On that point, we would like to see Norfolk and Suffolk get a fair voting system for the mayoral elections, as has been promised to much of the rest of the country. Without this, the power will be concentrated in the hands that simply have not been endorsed by the people to hold it. Another opportunity is that the suggestion to develop a localized approach for adult social care, children's social care, and SEND. For instance, each unitary has their own social care service to deliver local services with collaboration on some key areas to avoid unnecessary disaggregation. On SEND, the proposal to have a local approach to services will enable deepened relationship with schools, health, families, offering it the opportunity to deliver co-produced community-driven services whilst enabling collaboration across the country footprint where that is required. For instance, in the recruitment of specialist roles such as educational psychologists. We will work well across Norfolk and partnerships, for example, the Waste Partnership, and can continue to do so whilst retaining local representation. There is an opportunity to beef up our climate responsiveness too, as this crucial area is rather lacking in the substance of the proposal. Cost savings seem less of an opportunity, although they have been claimed as a reason by the government initially. But with no independent assessment, we have to be skeptical about any claims of savings in any shake-ups. There are concerning aspects of the single unitary proposal regarding costs worth mentioning. The single unitary proposal seeks to save money, but they say they can do that now, but how? Well, take a look at Part D, Section 18, page 51 of the proposal. A new relationship with town and parish councils. Page 52 lists local choices on offer, where it suggests T&P councils could take on the following services: minor road and footpath repairs, grass cutting and verge maintenance, street cleaning and litter collection, recycling and waste education initiatives, community transport schemes, local tourism promotion and visitor support, environmental health checks and pest controls, climate action projects and green initiatives, tree planting and biodiversity schemes, winter gritting and snow clearance, food prevention and drainage maintenance, local event coordination and support, dog waste bin management and enforcement, public realm improvements and beautification, community safety and neighborhood watch support. Is this a way of offloading costs onto town and parish council? If so, how on earth would they pay for them, and where is the expense to deliver? The three-way model is preferable to a super council, but we would like to see much more focus on developing active travel, including public transport, which Norfolk so sorely lacks. Hopefully, this council will never again be bullied into building expensive, unnecessary roads like the NDR, as happened to the Labour Council in the past. I would like to finish by highlighting the public responses that show how much residents want access to their councillors. Green councillors have always sought, first and foremost, to put our residents first. We look forward to continuing to do that, whatever name of the council, and to involve them in the next steps, as the new boundaries present opportunities and challenges. Above all, we call on the government to adequately fund local government so it can represent and look after local people and places at a grassroots level. Norwich City Council has tried, whatever it's failing, to do that. And the Green councillors will continue to work hard to make sure this special area is heard and looked after into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Champion. I now call upon Councillor Davis to speak on behalf of the Independent Group.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'd like to take a little time to reflect on the local government reorganisation proposals for Norfolk. I'll start with the positives because there are clear opportunities here. Our current setup is complicated. Many Residents simply don't know which council is responsible for which service. Is it the district? Is it the county? Sometimes it's both. That confusion is frustrating for people, and it can also slow down decisions. A single, more streamlined council could help. It has the potential to simplify things, cut out duplication, and make the system easier for residents to navigate. If we spend less money on overlapping systems and management, there is a chance to put more money into frontline services, the things people see and rely on every day. There's also the bigger picture. Norfolk is a big county with big ambitions, but we sometimes speak with too many different voices. 3 unitary authorities could make us more effective when bidding for government funding or lobbying for investment in housing, infrastructure and transport. A clear, united Greater Norwich voice gives us a better chance of being heard nationally. And then there's consistency. At the moment, what you get as a resident can depend on which side of a district boundary you happen to live. A reorganised authority could help level that out, making access fairer and standards more even across the county. So there are genuine positives, but there are also real concerns. The first is about local voices. Larger unitaries are not always better than smaller districts. People value the sense of connection with their local council. They want to know that decisions are made by people who understand their communities, their towns, their villages. If reorganisation creates more distance, if residents feel that decisions are being taken in Norwich without a proper understanding of what is happening in small towns or rural areas, then trust will disappear very quickly. And let's be honest, life in rural Norfolk is very different to life in Norwich. A decision that makes sense in the city may not fit for someone living in Honningham or Blowfield, let alone in a small village with no shop, no bus service, and patchy broadband. If the new authority does not find a way to bring those voices to the table, people will feel left behind. The second concern is council tax harmonisation. Right now, people in different districts pay different amounts for broadly the same service. Bringing that together is not a small technical detail, it is a huge issue. Will some areas face sudden and steep rises? Will others see reductions? Will certain areas see freezes, while in the same year their neighbours across the old boundaries see rises? And over what timescale? People deserve honesty and clarity on this. They need reassurance that they are not going to be unfairly penalised just because of where they live. The third concern, and this is absolutely central, is poverty and inequality. Too many families in Norfolk are already struggling. We know this. Whether it's with housing, heating, food, or transport, there are communities where child poverty rates are high, where older people are isolated, where access to services is already limited. If reorganisation is driven only by savings on a spreadsheet, those families will feel the impact first and hardest. The danger is that a bigger, more remote unitary authority could make that gap wider between those who have resources and those who do not. That cannot happen. Reorganisation must be part of the solution to tackling inequality, not another obstacle. It has to deliver better outcomes for the most vulnerable. If it does not do this, it will have failed its most important test. And that brings me to housing. Housing is one of the biggest issues facing Norfolk. We know that too many young people and families cannot afford to buy, and for many, renting is becoming harder, less affordable, and less secure. At the same time, older residents often struggle to find smaller, suitable homes in their communities when they want to downsize. And in rural areas, new developments are too often out of reach for local people, with genuinely affordable housing in very short supply. We see it in villages where second homes or holiday lets have pushed prices out of reach. We see it in towns when new estates are built, but the promised GP surgeries or schools never quite follow. So the question is this: how will a new reorganised authority tackle the housing crisis? Will it mean better planning and coordination so that homes are built where they are needed with the right infrastructure around them? Will it mean a stronger commitment to genuinely affordable housing? Or will it just centralise decision-making and leave communities feeling powerless about what is built in their area? Reorganisation has to help us deliver more genuinely affordable, high-quality housing. It has to make sure we are planning for the long term, with schools, GPs, surgeries, transport and green space included. And it has to make sure that rural and coastal communities are not left behind while the focus stays on larger towns. If we get housing wrong, all the efficiencies in the world will not matter because residents will feel the impact for decades. And of course, the fourth concern is the protection of services. At the end of the day, people will not judge this on the organisation chart. They will judge it on whether their bins are collected, whether potholes are repaired, whether care is available when they need it. So where does that leave us? Overall, I'm in favour of the principle of organisation. I do think the benefits are there to be achieved. A simpler and clearer system, less bureaucracy, more money for frontline services, and a stronger voice for Norfolk as a whole. But it has to be done carefully, and it has to be done with people, not to people. That means safeguards for local services, a fair and transparent approach to council tax harmonisation, real involvement for communities in shaping the detail, not just being asked at the end, a focus on tackling inequality and poverty, not worsening them, and a clear, ambitious strategy on housing to make sure we are building the right homes in the right places for the right people. If those conditions are met, this will not just be tidying up lines on a map. It will be a genuine chance to improve services, to reduce inequality, to tackle housing challenges, and to give the people of Norfolk a system of local government that really works for them. Do this with people, not to them, and Norfolk will come out stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I'm now going to speak on behalf of the Lib Dem group. We're on the threshold of a truly historic moment for Greater Norwich and for Norfolk as a whole. The proposal before us is not simply about changing boundary or structures, it is about fundamentally redesigning the way we deliver public services, and it is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to get this right for our communities. For too long, our residents and businesses have had to navigate a fragmented system with responsibility split between county and district councils. This has led to duplication, confusion, and at times a slow response to local needs. Now, with the move towards a single Greater Norwich Unitary Authority, we have the chance to bring clarity, accountability, and ambition to the heart of our public services. I'm delighted to see that service redesign is at the core of our proposals. By consolidating functions and aligning housing, health, social care, planning, and transport under one authority, we can deliver more joined up, neighbourhood-based services tailored to the needs of our residents. This is our chance to break down silos, reduce duplication, and ensure that every pound spent delivers maximum value on the front line. But it's about much more than just efficiency. It's about prevention, integrating early help, social care, and housing so that we can support people sooner, tackle inequalities, and stem crises before they escalate. It's about harnessing digital innovation and local knowledge to make services more accessible, responsive, and resilient. And it's about protecting our unique local identity while giving Greater Norwich a strong, unified voice in a regional and national decision-making. This is the most ambitious reform of local government in Norfolk for over half a century. It is our chance to design services that are fit for the future, services that are sustainable, inclusive, and capable of meeting the challenges of a growing, diverse city region. That we are gathered here today to discuss a proposal developed through collaborative efforts of councils from across our county and of various political colours speaks volumes. This proposal follows extensive consultation and public engagement, and I wish to extend my appreciation to all members of the public who contributed their views during the various roadshow events. So our message to the Minister is this: let's seize this once-in-a-generation opportunity. Let's work together, residents, staff, partners, government, and elected members, to shape a new model of public services and cultural heritage that truly delivers for everyone in Greater Norwich. Today is just the start. Let's engage in the conversation, share ideas, and help build a system that is not just better, but genuinely transformative. Thank you. So, and with that done, I now want to know, does any other councillor wish to speak on this? Okay, Councillor Schmierer.
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. When we sat here several months ago, first discussing this matter, I suspected that in the coming months, and I think I expressed it as such, that I would likely adopt the role of a sort of quasi-modern-day Cassandra, warning against and expressing my concerns about the three-unitary model that we have before us today, and I'm afraid to say nothing has changed there. But before I outline my reasoning, I would like to express my appreciation of the engagement that so many members of the public have with the various, and there have, of course, have been various workshops, questionnaires run by, and other sort of methods of finding information that have been run by various councils about this. But also, I'd like to express my appreciation of the work of officers and indeed council colleagues who have clearly spent an awful lot of time and effort in putting together these proposals, and this is something that should not go unnoticed or unrecognised. Indeed, it is right that this time, energy and effort has been invested, because we are set to make a very significant decision for the future of local government in Norfolk, and as Councillor Stannard said, it is perhaps the most important decision we will ever make as councillors in this chamber. And the stakes are high. How we reorganise ourselves as councils now will shape how services are delivered and what residents can expect from their council and how effectively we represent our community, not just now, not just tomorrow, but indeed for generations to come. So let me be very clear from the outset. I do not and will not support the idea of a single unitary authority for Norfolk. It is simply too large, too remote, and too unwieldy to deliver the kind of responsive, accountable local government our residents deserve. A single council for more than 900,000 people risks losing that vital connection between communities and their elected representatives. So where does that leave us? Well, it's obvious. It leaves us with two options, the 2 unitary option or the 3 unitary model. And while I do genuinely understand the arguments put forward for the 3, I do have serious reservations which I feel I need to outline to you this evening. Chief among them is the question of finances. In the 2 reports that I have read, the one prepared by South Norfolk and the one prepared by the 6 councils, the projected savings between the 2 and the 3 unitary models vary by millions, sometimes up to £10 million, and that is in year 1. If that cannot be agreed on as a starting point, then I wonder how much confidence I can have in the numbers going forward, especially when we're looking 5, 10 years in advance. And consequently, I have to question how I can, as an elected representative in good faith, vote to reorganise on that basis. As councillors, we have a duty to secure the best value for money for our residents. And when there is so much uncertainty on this scale, I simply have to express my reservations about changing my mind and voting against my original position, which was to support 2 unitaries for Norfolk. But it isn't just about money. Beyond finances, we must look at geography, at culture, and at the way people actually live their lives. I have listened intensely to the words and points others have made, but I'm afraid, in my opinion, the 2 unitary model simply makes more sense. It aligns better, in my opinion, with existing patterns of commuting, with economic development zones, and with the way our communities already interact. It better preserves important strategic planning frameworks, plural, like the Greater Norwich Local Plan, and better keeps together cultural areas such as North Norfolk rather than fragmenting them. 3 unitaries would, in my view, risk creating artificial divides that simply do not reflect the lived reality of Norfolk's residents. It would introduce complexity when what we need is clarity. 2 unitaries, by contrast, in my opinion, strikes the right balance. Large enough on one hand to deliver the strong, efficient services, but not so large on the other hand as to become distant or unresponsive. Colleagues, we all want the same outcome. Better public services delivered more efficiently, with stronger local accountability. Councillor Davis, you started your speech by succinctly outlining why unitaries can and maybe should make things easier for residents to understand who represents them and who is responsible for the various services they rely on, something that you, Councillor Wright, then reiterated also very eloquently. But for me, the 2 unitary model is the best way of achieving this clarity for our residents. It reflects the economic and cultural map of Norfolk, it is more likely to deliver the promised financial benefits, and it keeps governance close enough to our communities to be meaningful. So while I cannot support one unitary for Norfolk, and while of course I have profound respect for those advocating for 3 and their reasons for doing so, I nevertheless personally believe 2 is the right way forward. For these reasons, I'm afraid I will be voting against the 3 unitary proposal before us. And I urge everyone in this chamber to consider carefully whether it is indeed the best for our residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Kane, I think I saw you indicate.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I will keep it brief. I'm mostly agreeing. Firstly, I just wanted to say, and I'm sure I speak for everyone here, a huge thank you to all the officers who have worked on this. I've been to a few of the drop-ins. The last one I went to, I came prepared with a list of questions for the officers, all of which were basically answered before me having to ask them. It's been a huge undertaking, and they've done it with exemplary work. And so a huge thank you to the officers there. Whilst I am agreeing with what has been said mostly in this chamber, I just wanted to say a couple of things that I don't think have been said, and it's my main reason for agreeing with this is on the issue of local democracy. I spoke on this when the issue first came up, and about the Wensum link, and about how no one in Norwich would have voted for the Wensum link. But here we were with representatives that had nothing to do with us, that we couldn't get rid of, we couldn't vote for or vote out, trying to force this on us. And this week, I think me and many of my colleagues have had emails from residents about the flags going up around Norwich, which have been used to intimidate people. We've had to say, sorry, you'll have to get in touch with Graham Plant about that. He's a Tory out in Norfolk. You can't elect him. You can't de-elect him. You can't elect someone else instead, but he has the say on this. And I think it is so important that the people of Norwich have the right to elect the people who represent them. And the people of Norwich have the right to say, no, we do not want those people to represent us when they do not represent us. And I think this is at the core of why I support the Unitary Council. In the recent Labour Party manifesto, they called for, my favourite part was the transport part, and they called for municipal control, to give the right of councils to bring in municipal control of public transport. Now, that is something that could not be done under the current system. But under this new system, it is something that we could bring in. And it is something that everyone who is in a progressive party, who has progressive politics, which I think hopefully we all do in this chamber, can fight for once we bring this in. And so I'm fully in favour of it for all of those reasons. My one dampener I would like to bring in is that I really hope that this isn't used as an excuse by central government to cancel the 2026 local elections. I support this because the people of Norwich should have more democracy, not less democracy, and we should not be getting rid of their democratic right to vote for their local representatives yet again in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton McAllister.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. So I just want to address some of the comments that have been made about a two-model council system rather than a free council system. Ultimately, there are small villages out to both the west and the east of Norwich which have much more in common with each other than they do with Norwich. Ultimately, we look at like Baldswell and we look at Freethorpe. They do not have street lights, for example. Norfolk County Council, under a single model, has proved itself to be entirely unreliable. One of the first political campaigns I was involved with was to stop the Tories at County Hall turning the streetlights off throughout Norwich. Many of you will remember this. Ultimately, we've heard a lot of speeches about the intricacies of what having these various models mean. Ultimately, we need a system where the people of Norwich can decide whether they value public safety, whether they value the sense of being able to sleep safe at night, avoiding antisocial behaviour, having streetlights on, having direct say over these matters, versus ultimately other people who do not understand those communities having the ability to make these decisions. And it works the other way. There would be times where large urban centres under a two-tier system, we would be either with Yarmouth or King's Lynn. And ultimately, in that situation, we would have large urban centres in certain electoral time periods being able to dictate what happens in quite rural communities. And that is frankly undemocratic and wrong. We need communities to be able to, which have a significant amount in common with each other. And the free council system groups areas into historic county towns of King's Lynn, Great Yarmouth and Norwich, ultimately giving people the ability to be part of a council which historically there is that affinity with, and where there is a lot more shared sense of identity, and people can replace, as Charlie had made the point, can replace councillors who are not representing them in a much easier and much more democratic manner.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Sands.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Yeah, if the single unitary makes little sense, then a two unitary model makes no sense whatsoever, because it still ends up with the city of Norwich swallowed up into an amorphous rural whole. It means that we have an administrative centre for the people who live in the city of Norwich. And I might add, qualify here, when I speak of the city of Norwich, I'm now talking about Greater Norwich on extended boundaries as we see it on the map. So I'm including some outlying areas in Norwich as well. We cannot see an administrative centre disappearing over into probably King's Lynn or somewhere else, dealing with all of the decisions that affect the lives of people in the city. Nor would we, for example, want to dictate how people live their lives equally over in King's Lynn or Swaffham or Thetford. So the three unitary model really is the only model that makes any sense whatsoever. It's clear that the three unitary model makes a differentiation between urban and rural authorities, and each of these authorities will be able to provide services for its residents in a much better and more efficient manner. Removing the county-wide authority, it means that we end up with decisions being made closer to people's homes. We end up with a situation where people will know, oh, when I phone up my local authority, they will be dealing with my highways, my parks, my gardens, my refuse collection, my schools, all of the services that affect me and my family. So with absolute great pleasure, I endorse in full the three unitary model as presented in this somewhat hefty tome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak? No, in which case I'll ask Councillor Stannard to respond.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I'd just like to thank all those in the chamber for their thoughtful and very, very helpful contributions. I've been listening to some of the points that you've been making, and I've just been noting down some of the things I think we all agree on. Accountability is vital. The democratic deficit is a problem and has been for the city. And I think the example of the Wensum link, for example, is a really good example of that. I could list you many, many more. We need to have a seat at the mayor's table. that's where we have to have influence if we are to get resources and policies, strategic policies across the new East Anglian mayoral area, which are to the benefit of the city. Current arrangements confuse people and lead to duplication and delays. Absolutely, I think we're all agreed on that. Having a single voice for the local community and a single place for the local community to go about local government services is really, really important. Poverty and inequality has been mentioned many times, and it's in the document, it's at the heart of the document, and certainly from the point of view of Greater Norwich, of the intent I've had throughout the negotiations and discussions, is to look at the opportunities presented by a single authority for Greater Norwich that could concentrate on those distinct issues, in particular poverty and inequality, and coordinate the levers of power that council would have, which are currently split between districts and county, in order to better tackle those. And as I said earlier on, it would have the opportunity, the ability to tackle those issues in ways unthinkable under the current split arrangements. Housing, I agree, really, really important. The Greater Norwich Authority on extended boundaries would first of all have the land to develop, to build new housing which people need. It would also be in a stronger position to lobby for resources for building, in particular, new social housing. And I would say the best way to ensure that the new unitary has control is controlled by those who wish to not just build housing of all tenures, but in particular to make sure that social housing is built, is to ensure that there is a greater Norwich authority, and that we all work hard to ensure there's a progressive majority on that council. The risk of being subsumed in a wider rural area, one of the biggest risks to that is the political control and the impact on our social housing stock. So I think that's a really, really important reason why we must support this. The other thing I think we're all agreed on is I don't think anyone in the chamber wants a single county unitary. I think we're completely united on that, and I think we all know why. And in terms of resources, the fair funding review is coming in the autumn, and that will for the first time embed deprivation in the formula which calculates the basic resources that councils receive from government. And I think I can say with some confidence that we don't know how much, but that change will greatly benefit a Greater Norwich unitary on extended boundaries. So that isn't taken into account in the financial projections you see. We can't do that because we don't know, but we do know the principles, and it is generally accepted that urban areas will benefit. Another reason why I'm feeling more confident about the financial situation going forward. There were lots of really, really good points made, and I understand and respect the views of, in particular, Martin. I understand where you're coming from, Martin. There's no right or wrong answer to this. It's a matter of judgment, and your points were made very honestly, and they're appreciated. I think there's a great deal of agreement. We want Greater Norwich to be able to take control of its destiny. We want councillors who live and work in the area to make those decisions. We want a council which can focus solely on the challenges and the needs of the city, which are so distinct from the remainder of Norfolk, so that it can do all those things that we want to see. We want to see houses built. We want to see jobs created. We want to see inequalities reduced. We want to see people in general being better off. And a Greater Norwich unitary focusing solely on the local area could deliver that. So thank you for your contributions. It's been really, really good debate, a very positive debate, and I urge you to vote for the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Stard. We'll now move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Got that? Yeah, thank you. All those against? Okay, thank you. Any abstentions? No, that is, I can confirm that that has been carried, so thank you. And thank you very much to everyone for the tone of the debate. This is the end of the meeting. There will now be a 15-minute break before Cabinet meeting commences. Members are welcome to stay for Cabinet meeting, but also free to leave if you wish. Thank you.